During my live last week, I promised you guys a more detailed videos that links Maslow's hierarchy of needs with the process of manifestation and maybe understanding why certain things can't manifest right now in your life. Let's get into it. Abraham Maslow was an American psychologist who was born around the beginning of the 20th century, and he became famous for his theories on self-actualization. So he theorized that all human consciousness is aiming for the process of self-actualization. But the reason the human psyche can't easily go there is because there's all these levels that the psyche must pass through in order to get to the point where they even desire the self-actualization. So what he was saying is there's the level that's physiological first. So the breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, excretion, homeostasis must be met in order for anything else to be desired or focused on, right? So if you don't have food, you don't have water, you can't sleep, you're not going to think about family, you're not going to think about love, you're not going to think about creativity, you're not going to think about anything else except satisfying the needs of the body ASAP. He said the second step is safety, security of the body, employment, resources, health, property, assets, right? So he was theorizing that unless you have a roof over your head, unless you feel safe that tomorrow you're still going to have all of these things, a stable job, that you're still going to have an income via which you can provide for yourself, for your family, he's saying you're still not going to think about love, marriage, because you're still in survival mode. Then he said love comes next, right? Friendship, family, sexual intimacy, belonging, right? It's all after all of these needs of security, and of course physiological needs will be met. Then he said there's a level about esteem where you start being concerned about self-esteem, confidence, respect of others, respected by others, but you wouldn't be thinking about that if you don't have food for tomorrow. And only after all of these things have been met can you actually start self-actualizing, okay? Worry about morality, creativity, spontaneity, problem solving, lack of prejudice, etc. And so he was saying that the people who have a physiological needs, who can't pay for food tomorrow, you cannot ask a person who's homeless, who doesn't have shelter, doesn't have food, to be moral, right? To not steal, to not go out there and do whatever is necessary for him to find shelter and to satisfy his bottom basic two needs. Now, of course, self-actualization remains a choice. So just because you meet the other four levels doesn't necessarily mean you're going to become a moral and creative person. It still has to be something you strive towards. But this video is more for people who are striving towards that anyways, but they can't figure out why is it that they can't get there, or they can't get there fast. So Abraham Maslow is theorizing that unless you rise through these levels one by one, you cannot get at the top by being on the first or second level. Now, as an interesting parenthesis, anybody who's self-actualized via a very sincere religious practice, for example, like the monks in Tibet, they're all past the bottom four levels if you think about it, right? Food and water is not a problem because they get by with a piece of bread and they have everything they need, their basic needs. Safety is not a problem because they have a roof over their head. Love and belonging is not a problem because they're part of this community of similar people with whom they live with. Self-esteem is not a problem. Confidence, because they're not tying these concepts with what we're tying these concepts on, which is competition in the world. So self-actualization becomes actually extremely easy from when you live in that world. But what about the rest of us who live in the 3D world, in the world of whatever societal construct we have here now? How can we self-actualize? The idea is to self-assess which of these levels you are at and to know that it is very difficult to go up more than one level at a time. And in fact, if you do stay within your level and manifest whatever you need to go to the next level, life will become easier and manifestation will become easier because it's not so far out of reach for your brain, right? So if you don't have food for next week, focusing on having plenty of food forever for the rest of your life would be much more productive for your brain than focusing on, let's say, manifesting an 18-bedroom home. Now you have to remember, it is not your brain's job to be your friend and bring you what you want. Your brain's job is just to keep you safe. And the way it keeps you safe first is the safety of your physical body. It doesn't worry about your wishes. Your wishes, your goals, your manifestations come from your will, but your will can only dominate your brain if everything else feels in safety. So your main job is manifest yourself above the safety level in order to have the things that follow, right? Love, marriage, self-esteem, people treating you a certain way, certain fame, certain career success. All of this come when you have gotten yourself slowly out of the first and second base level. Now, a lot of the people I work with have no problem in first and second level. They have food, shelter, they have great employment. But what they have is a lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, and they're seeing themselves as less valuable than maybe the people that have whatever it is that they also desire. And I don't want to diminish that point, right? Even though you're just under the top of the pyramid, this can be a lot of work, right? Because you probably were subject to a lot of rejection, humiliation, abandonment, and who knows what else, that this level is just as much work as maybe to get out of the first and second level. So just because you're out of the two base levels and you have everything, maybe you even have a supportive family, your need to, let's say, have the self-confidence sufficient to feel yourself worthy of a great relationship can be a lot of work. But what I want to stay focused on is the top level of this pyramid is designed for every single person in this world. We are all meant to evolve our consciousness to that level, and all your needs will always be met as long as at each level you make the conscious choice and the conscious decision that you are worth that and more, that and more. Take it one level at a time. I'm worth food and shelter, and I'm worth great employment, and I'm worth belonging, and I'm worth respect. And once you have all these things, I'm on top of the pyramid, so now I can contribute to the world. It's possible, and it's actually very probable. You just have to do a little bit of initial work first.